Good morning, Softball America. We've got a new edition this week. I'm Tara Henry, your host, joined by none other than the Nicole Mendes. Mendy, thanks so much for hopping on for Good Morning and Afternoon, Softball America.
Thanks for having me, Tara. You texted and I was like, how can I say no? I was driving and I was like, how can I say no? And here I am because I love talking softball. So I made sure to be able to do it.
Well, and I want to let everybody know that the chat is open. So if you have any questions for either of us, head on over to the chat. We're on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Subscribe to that YouTube channel and let us know what you'd like to hear from us. So head on over there and we'll be able to see anything and everything. But we're going to get right into it. We're going to keep this pretty short and sweet. Biggest news of the week, Nicole, Mickey Dean announces that and Auburn that he'll be retiring at the end of the season. That came out last night and pretty much shocked the softball world for those that weren't expecting it. Initial thoughts on Mickey Dean and his retirement?
Um, I had heard rumors of it and I was like, you hear it sometimes and you're like, I don't know. Maybe whenever coaches get to a certain age, I feel like rumors always surface of like, oh, they're going to retire. You heard that for Mike Kendria for so many years. I've heard it for Coach Gasso for so many years. So you just never know. Um, but it was in the back of my mind what the timing of it, I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting it to come in mid-season. That one kind of shocked me. I understand, okay, you gotta keep next season into your focus, but the mid-conference announcement really shocked me. I wasn't prepared for that. I won't lie.
I agree with you. I think that for me was a big surprise, but also I think it's probably a smart move by Auburn and willing to know, hey, we're open for business. We're going to go out and take a look at who's going to be the next head coach here at Auburn and just celebrate Mickey and his retirement and be able
Yeah.
to, honor that. And, they've had their struggles this season, but the SEC is tough. And that's going to be, I think that's a job that I don't know that anybody would turn that job down if the money's right, and it's going
I
to be a heck of a head coaching job.
yeah, and just my experience once I've graduated being in the professional space, a lot of the girls who play professionally, they either want to be coaches themselves or they have a lot of friends who want to be coaches. And I got to see firsthand the past 2 summers. I mean, the first person I think of is Nadia Taylor. I thought of Sydney Romero. There's so many different coaches who have come from those mid-season, oh, we've been talking, that's kind of evolved, but I think you're right. This is definitely a move that if you want to be a coach somewhere, Auburn's a really great place to be because it's SEC school. There's money to be had automatically, but with that, there's room for immediate impact, immediate potential, right? Not just who you are as a coach, but who Auburn is, what that school is, what they've been in the past. It's not like, oh my gosh, they've been a horrible team. So you kind of have that in your head if you're a recruit. You can play up that a lot if you're a new coach. And then also just bringing new life. I feel like Auburn, ever since I don't know. I feel like ever since 2016, they have struggled to have that just fresh power. They're good, but they struggle to have that like fresh power, that fresh face, that just motivation. So I think it's cool that they're gonna be able to get a different look for Auburn.
So we'll get into that at the end. Nicole and I will take a look at those potential hires and who we think Auburn's going to go after at the end of the show. So stick around. So we'll get right into the SEC. It just means more with Gray and Tom are on Monday night heading and checking out the SEC. But we'll go over a little brief rundown of what happened this past week. Florida, both Wallace and Williams, Skylar Wallace and Mia Williams earn weekly honors. They outscore Kentucky 26-4. Heck of a performance from the Gators. Alabama had a midweek or a 2-game split. I almost called it a midweek, but it was an ACC SEC challenge split with Virginia Tech. I was able to watch Caleb Beaver in person. Mississippi State defeated Arkansas. Texas A&M swept Auburn. Missouri took the series from LSU, which was huge, and then Tennessee rolls South Carolina as well. Nicole, just what stood out from you in the SEC this past week?
Florida. Preseason happened and they would have games where I was like, whoa, Florida, they're back. And then they would have games where I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to quite commit to them just yet. I feel like steadily they have been having more and more of those games where it's like, okay, Florida's back, and less of what just happened. What did I just watch? Personally, I know Mia Williams, and she is fantastic. She is fantastic. I got to work with her this past summer with her travel ball team, and just knowing how she thinks, knowing how she talks, knowing how she's motivated, it doesn't surprise me at all that she has been the way that she has been so far this year. And then also off field, I mean, you see it on their socials, but Wallace and Williams, they're really close. And you can see that Skylar Wallace has really taken her underneath her wing. Whenever you have a player like Skylar Wallace that's like, hey, come here, like let's hang out. And it maybe it's an intentional, maybe it's not, but that bleeds over onto the softball field of, hey, let's go hit together. And she comments on something as a freshman, learning from that, listening to that, understanding the mindset that Skylar Wallace has, which is incredible. Like, you can gain so much from that. So I love the fact that they are so tight. I love that duo together. So Florida to me has been really impressive. A&M, they stand out as well. I Trisha Ford, like, she has really turned that program around in a hurry. You wouldn't have expected the turnaround. I wasn't expecting the turnaround to be quite as quick as it has been. But talking to Woolry last year, she was saying, man, like, everyone is so excited because we're learning parts about the game that we never even understood before. We've been in college. We're learning, and everybody wants to buy in. And team's always dangerous whenever they buy in, because that's something that you can't practice. That's something that you can't be saying, do this, do that. But whenever they buy in, like, oh, it's so good. So those two teams really, really stood out to me.
And I couldn't agree more with you on that, Nicole. I think the buy-in is the hardest part these days. There's tons of teams with loads of talent. They've got all the tools. They're able to do X, Y, and Z. But how you bring a team and just facilitate a culture of excellence, and I think that's the hardest part. And I agree with you. I think Trisha Ford has proven that she's been able
Mhm.
to, and the SEC is going to be fun as we take a look into this next week and the
Oh
end
my
of the season.
gosh.
So we'll finish the SEC there. And again, if you need anything else on the SEC, you can check out both Gray and Tom on It Just Means More Softball.
How upset was Gray that he couldn't talk about SEC this week, like
He was,
today?
I mean, Gray, if you're in the car driving, I know that you all are driving. You can totally hop on here if you'd like. We'll
He's salivating. He's
I know
salivating.
it. Again, the
Um,
chat is open. And Annie, I know we went through this in the beginning, but we'll get to Auburn at the end of the show as well. But again, the chat is open. You can head on over to Twitter and or YouTube. We'll be able to see your comments over there. So
hey, Annie's on it. She just said, "How did you like Rhodes?" I heard a little bit from Gray, the experience. I've never been. That was one place I always wanted to play as a softball player, just hearing Oklahoma, Alabama, like that rivalry that they've had. I always wanted to play there. I've never been. I don't think I've ever been in Alabama, actually. Oh,
well, I
wait, no,
think
I have. I have, just kidding. I have. I haven't been to Alabama University, so yeah.
okay. Well, I will let you know how my experience was. Nicole, we got to get you out there. Rhodes House is amazing. Having a host in Emily Petek, Emily Clifford now, and Gray Robertson, I think really special, and was able to sit in the front row for first couple of innings for the first game, and then went up into the press box when there was that wild double play ball that hit a runner in the head, and then runner was called out. But Gosh, I just think there's something really special about roads, and it's not something that you can necessarily fully describe, but it's something that you can feel. And it is magic. It is magical there. And, Gray Robertson, he was able to uh, cook me up a nice little breakfast sandwich on game two or on Saturday. Just an incredible host and just good Southern hospitality. So I would recommend, Nicole, and hopefully we can get this going, that we all head out to Rhodes at some point. But it really special to talk to Caleb Rowe on the field after the game. And the vibe at Bama is just, it feels really loose and free and very different. I think Caleb Rowe brings that energy to that squad and was really, really impressed not only with the Tide, they split with Virginia Tech, a really tough Virginia Tech
Yeah.
squad, but Kayla Beaver to shut out that squad for the first time this season, in the entire season, masterful. And it's not that she gave up hits, I think 5 hits on the day, but why Kayla Beaver is so effective, and you can head on over to the site and read about it, is she buckles down with runners in scoring position. And I've had this
Mhm.
conversation with Amanda Scarborough at length about Kayla Beaver. She gets better. She gets better as the pressure goes up. So, my experience at Rhodes, Annie, was fantastic, and hopefully we'll be back soon. Again, chat is open. Annie's over there hanging out with us. We'll get to the Big 12. I know, Nicole, you covered this on 10 teams, 2 rings. Make sure you check out Nicole's podcast. Uh, Nicole, give us a little bit, a quick breakdown of the Big 12, that just an abbreviated version, and then the rest they can kind of head over and check out your podcast.
Um, one of the best conferences in the country this year. And I don't say that lightly because in the past, I don't think that they have been one of the best conferences. I think Oklahoma has been one of the best teams. Oklahoma State has been one of the best teams, but as a whole, as a conference, I don't think they have been. I do think they are this year. As far as there's a lot of teams that have good bats. There's a lot of teams that have full staffs. There's a lot of teams that are trending in the right direction and having really competitive games. I do think that's due in fact to being able to face Oklahoma, OSU, Texas, even Baylor. Baylor, they have struggled. And I think that's telling of where the conference is at because Baylor's a really good team. You saw them face up against the other conferences in preseason, and they dropped them. They were looking really good, and then they come into Big 12 play and they get dropped, you know? And so I think that speaks to the strength of the conference. BYU looking pretty good. UCF, another one they got swept by Texas, but 2 of the 3 games, they were really in it. They were really in it, and it speaks to Texas of their closing game and being able to shut the door even in a tight situation. I mean, whenever you have a pitcher like Tegan, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? They're amazing. And then I think it's only fair to talk about Kansas because they have been just here. Here. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the year, how do you think Kansas is gonna be? I would have said, I don't know. They've always struggled in the past, but I think Jennifer McFalls, the coach for Kansas, has really been able. Yeah, I agree. Kansas is showing out this year. She's really put together something special this year. Lyric Moore behind the plate in the box. She is so solid, but they have 2 healthy arms as well, and that's something they've been lacking. Um, they're gonna play Oklahoma this weekend. I am so excited. I think it's Easter weekend. I'm not calling any games. I'm gonna be out of the lake with my family. I might have to, like, sneak away, like, "Oh, I'm seasick," and, like, watch one of the games because
Just
I
tell them you're going to
can't.
watch the game. I don't think you need to tell them you're seasick.
I guess I don't have to lie. Yeah, you're right, Tara.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
but I'm really excited to see how this weekend goes. There's a couple of good games coming up, but I've been really impressed with Kansas. I think I saw our Oklahoma State's losses to Tulsa and
Mm.
BYU concerning or just growing pains. It's the year of the mid-major. They are all over the country. They have proven themselves against the top teams. They're not just an easy midweek win. And Tulsa, they've picked up quite a few wins, and they have shown that they're not just, "Oh, like, let's pick that up." They're competitive, and I think Tulsa, they have a good arm in the circle. They can compete with anybody. So that was really, really cool. I just saw Amanda's comment. Seasick at the
That's
lake. Oh,
I'm
yes.
cracking up. I mean, I think on
A
that
sensitive
question that
stomach? I don't know.
yeah, uh, Brayden, I don't know that they're concerning. I
Ugh.
think in general, winning games is hard. I always look at who's starting, who's in the circle, kind of what they faced the weekend before. Midweek drops or losses to me are part of it. I don't know if it's concerning. I think we'll take a look at and see this series this weekend. I think that'll give us a good
Yeah.
barometer if those losses really were an indicator of where they're at. But I like where Oklahoma State's at. I think they're
Mhm.
young and they're doing a nice job adjusting at the plate. And when you got Lexi Kilfoyle in the circle with that hard down ball,
Yeah.
it's hard to score runs off of her and or get the ball out of the yard. Uh, this was from our friend Amanda Scarborough. This is why
Yeah.
Amanda.
Amanda's just roasting me here live. This is actually not a podcast about softball. This is an internal roast going on.
I love it. That's the
I did it
big.
to myself. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fair. Big 12. Now we're going to head out to the Pac 12. On Fridays, the final swing with Aaliyah Jordan. Check that out. She'll give the full breakdown of the pack. Washington takes the series at home against UCLA. Big series. Oregon sweeps Arizona State at home. Stanford swept Utah at home. And then Cal defeating Arizona. As well. Anders, the Pac 12 player of the week, had a big, huge 2-run home run in the sixth to hold off the Arizona Wildcats. But Nicole, when you take a look at the Pac this past weekend and the entire season till now, what are your biggest takeaways with the Pac 12 in its final season?
Ugh, nostalgic a little bit. I think it makes you play a little bit harder knowing an era for real is coming to an end, and you want to be not only the team that gets the last laugh of, man, I got that last win, but also you want to do this conference justice. You want to go out with a bang. I know everybody in the pack is feeling that way and really excited to start a new chapter, but they're really wanting to end this chapter with a final close, a solid finish. And I like what I see from Washington. I do. This is a Washington team that I haven't seen, I would say, since 2019, where I feel like they're a strong contender. They are a really strong contender, and I think it's really cool that they're doing it with such a low roster number. You look at the roster numbers across the country, this is the final year of all those red shirts that we had from COVID. Washington, they probably have one of the lowest roster numbers, but one of the best teams out there. It's crazy to me, how they've been able to maintain it, and I think it's also forced them to come closer together. You gotta play better whenever you don't have a lot of backup, right? So, that's been really impressive. UCLA, I've been happy. They started off really rough. Like, you asked Coach I, she said the same thing. They started off really rough, but they're really young. So you kind of have to take that hand in hand. Um, but as conference has gone on, I think they figured it out. And I think it had to do more so with the upperclassmen learning how to lead instead of just kind of doing their own thing. They just have to learn how to lead because it's really hard to be a really good player. It's really hard to learn how to be a really good leader, especially whenever you have to juggle both. Like, that is not an easy task to do. And My Brady gets a ton of limelight already, not just for who she is, but the kind of play that she has, a ton of NIL deals. There's so much pressure going on. So learning how to step into that role that's new to her, that takes some time. And it looks like she's gotten a better handle on that as well. And then I saw the Washington offense versus Stanford pitching, must see TV 1,000,000%. I mean, Holy cow. I don't know. I don't like, I'm trying to think like, oh, normally I'm like, yeah, I feel this team or I feel this team. I really don't know. I think this is going to be a fun series. Um, I think Washington, they have the advantage because they are a triple threat team. There's a lot of players on that team that they can bunt, they can slap, they can hit, and they do it all really well. You don't see that too often, so that makes it hard for a pitcher to prep. But I mean, Kennedy, she's filthy. It doesn't matter if you're swinging or slapping. And God, trying to bunt that rise ball, I don't even want to think about it.
Everyone
I
thinks
don't.
about that stuff. They're like, "Oh, it's so hard to hit." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, try to even bunt it. That's even
Right?
worse." I think it's
I
so
think
easy. I
I think
know.
I would rather try to bunt a drop ball than try to bunt her rise
Same.
ball. Like, that's how nasty it is. Like, no, thank you.
Same.
I don't know. What do you think about that matchup? How do you feel about it?
I agree. Hey, Brandon, how are you? Great to hear from you. It's been a while. And I think it's going to be a great series to watch. We'll get into that at the end of the show, but I really want to circle back and talk about UCLA because I think a healthy Caitlin Terry has been vital and key to the Bruins'
Mhm.
success. Caitlin Terry got the win, their single win against Washington with a 6-0 victory for the Bruins. Left-hander in the circle. She throws hard. She's got an off speed. I also think a healthy Caitlin Terry has really helped out the Bruins, and I couldn't agree more, Nicole. When you talk about leaders and not only being successful on the field, but how they lead off the field. Hey, Brandon. Uh, and so we'll get into that. But no, I think this matchup, when we get into the lineup, we'll talk a little bit to it. But this is a matchup that we've all got our eye on. So that is, we got to move along here.
Whatever
Let,
excuse, seasick or not, like, get there.
yes. We'll head to the ACC, the softball speakeasy tonight with Rain Wilson and Kelly Torres. Make sure you check that out to get in depth, not only reports on the ACC, but just anything and everything you could ever want to learn about being a player, being a player 1 year removed. Those two are hysterical. Check it out. Softball speakeasy. Love it. Duke with a series at Louisville. UNC defeated Georgia Tech. Florida State defeated Pitt, took the series there. Boston College took the series from Syracuse. And Notre Dame sweeps NC State. Big one here. Virginia wins the series versus Clemson. Clemson's in a little bit of a nosedive right now,
Mhm.
but when you take a look at Harris for Virginia, 9.1 scoreless innings. Great piece article in our Tuesday trends from Brady Vernon. Head on over to the site, softballamerica.com, to take a look at that. 9.1 scoreless innings over the Cavs, 2 wins against the Tigers, and closing out the series finale. And then you add an Eden Bigham there as well for Virginia. Nicole, thoughts on the ACC and what you've seen thus far?
I think we have seen the rest of the ACC really step it up this year. I think with Florida State, just a big question mark of where are they? A lot of teams are going, "Oh, shoot, this is my chance. This is my chance," because if Florida State's not at their best, and like you said, Clemson, little bit of a nosedive, who's in it? Duke is always in it, but I mean, I've seen UNC, I think Lindsay Leftwich, she's done a nice job stepping in. There's some competition going on within that conference that I think we might be surprised by the end of the year what that conference tournament is gonna look like. But I I I think Duke, they are a College World Series team. I think they are solid, they look great. Um, I think we might see UNC go pretty far in their tournament this year. And just a feeling, just a hunch. Can't really explain why, but just
Mhm.
from what I've seen of them, um, I think they got something good going on that is just it's cooking. It's a low simmer right now, but come end of conference, it might be a little bit of a boil. You
I
like that
sort of,
metaphor?
I do like it.
I was impressed. I was
I'm writing
impressed.
this. I'm like writing this down on this date because I think this could happen too,
Mm.
Nicole. I think you're onto something, and like you said, that squad, what a turnaround. And I always refer back to Clearwater when I saw that team get practice in, well knowing that the games weren't going to be played in Clearwater. But I think there's a good chance that we might see the Tar Heels make a good solid run. But I wrote it down because we're going to come back to that. We'll head to that is the ACC again. Check out the softball speakeasy with Rain Wilson and Kelly Torres. Then we'll head to the Big Ten Sydney Spin on Thursday. So tomorrow night, check out Sydney's Spin. Easy for me to say. Penn State is 24-6 on this season, Nicole, defeating Indiana in that series. First weekend for Big Ten there. Northwestern, Michigan, they all started. So Penn State, Northwestern, and Michigan all started conference play with sweeps 3-0. Kansas Robinson led Northwestern in hits with 9. She had a 750 batting average and a on-base percentage of 778, 3 home runs and 5 runs scored during a 5-0 for Northwestern. And Kansas will join Sydney tomorrow night on the podcast. So make sure you check that out. But Nicole, thoughts on the Big Ten and preseason, we were all thinking Nebraska, obviously Jordy Ball gets hurt, and we're seeing Penn State really take the reins here in the Big Ten.
Shocker. I was not expecting that. I want to go and talk to coach and go, hey, what did you guys do in the off season? Because this team from this current season from last year, that's not the same team. And that tells me that's not just the addition of some players. There had to have been some kind of mental come to Jesus meeting. There had to have been some kind of mental shift of we're here. We want to be over here. And I would love to get into the nitty gritty because that to me just says that's a mental change. And I think the best teams, they have that it factor. They have that mental toughness. They have the clarity of this is our goal. This is our target. It doesn't matter who we're playing. That doesn't get in the way of what our ultimate goal is. And so they look like they have it going on. Fun to see that because I think in the past couple years, not to say that Northwestern's not doing great. I mean, we just heard about how Robinson just like absolutely dominated. But I feel like in the past you've only heard about Northwestern from the Big Ten as a true factor. Michigan
And Michigan.
sometimes.
Yep.
But I would say in the past like 6 to 7 years, I haven't felt a consistent presence out of the Big Ten quite like Northwestern. And I love to see it. I love to see Penn State going in, dominating the conference. Nebraska, even with losing Jordy, the pitching, it's not there, but their offense has looked better. Their offense has looked better. They're starting to get more consistent, and they've snuck a couple of wins in. So even with a big key of who their team was going to be this year, they've found a way to rally. I think it's a fun conference. I still really like Northwestern. I do think that they are head and shoulders above. But I'd like to see a little bit more talk coming out of the Big Ten.
So that is the Big Ten. And again, you can check out Sydney Spin tomorrow night on our YouTube channel. That is the Big Ten. And I know Nicole's got to run because she's got to go get a hitting session in because she's still an athlete. So when we take a look at the top 25, we'll look at not only is Louisiana back in the top 25 throughout most major polls, but there are 21-13 and went 3-1 last week. And then Texas State is at 26-7. They were 4-0 last week. And then FAU won a close one last night against Stetson. I was watching that, watching the Owls. Those programs have really been showing out throughout this season. And if you have any questions about the top 25, you could send them in to us, and Brady and I, or Nicole or Gray or Sydney, whoever can grab them, we'll take those questions. But I want to get to what's on deck so that Nicole can grab her bat and go get some swings in. So what's on deck? The lineup for the weekend. So again, on the site, our own Brady Vernon with the lineup. Number one on the docket in the leadoff spot, OU at Kansas. We talked about that. Huge series, big opportunity for Kansas to again see where they're at in terms of not only the Big 12, but on the national stage. Florida is going to be at Mississippi in Starkville. I'll be there. So if you're going to be in Starkville, come find me and say hello. Texas at Oklahoma State. This is the one I want to focus on, Nicole, before we have to go. Texas at Oklahoma State. Huge, huge. Oof. What are the keys for Texas to win this thing, and what are the keys for Oklahoma State to win this thing?
Texas, they have looked so good this year. They've made a ton of a splash on the scene. They have a lot of great additions. Some of their older veterans, they've really stepped in to their own, and you can see them become comfortable in their identity as an athlete, who they are as a player. But there's been times where they make these errors defensively, and you're just like, that would have been such a good game. And I feel like it doesn't happen often, but there's been enough of those, but where you can't have that against a team like Oklahoma State, because on the flip side, if you're Oklahoma State, you have been with your back against the wall for 12 plus games. I talked about it in the podcast, but they're a team where their backs are against the wall and they've found a way to come out with a win. If they see any sliver, any opening, they have taken it, and they've done a good job of expounding on not necessarily just errors, but also clutch hitting. And you combine those two, and they're a deadly team, especially at home. I am a personal victim of the Oklahoma State fans and how loud they can be. And if defense is your weakness and you're out there and those fans are just berating on you defensively, berating on you, like, that can also factor in mentally. So if you're Texas, I am practicing trying to drown out noise. I'm practicing my defense. I just want to have a really good, clean defensive outing. And if you're Oklahoma State, you're saying take advantage of any mistake, look for extra bases, try to get your crowd as loud as possible, because that definitely factors in whenever you're a team playing in that environment.
And that's going to be a huge series. On the one that I believe is the biggest series of the weekend, Virginia Tech is at Duke. Texas A&M is at LSU, another big series. See if the Tigers can turn it around. Had a win last night. Oregon at UCLA. Pivotal series for both teams. I believe the Ducks, we're seeing the Ducks starting to play some good ball. And there's a lot of winners on that staff too. And I think when you've got a bunch of coaches that, are able to facilitate that mentality and really pull a team together, keep an eye on the Ducks at UCLA. I think that's another big one. Wichita State is at Charlotte.
Ooh,
Texas. Yeah, I know, right?
that's going to be fun.
Texas State at South Alabama. La Tech at Liberty. La Tech, what a season! 23-6. They're 7-2 in Conference USA and really leading that conference at the moment. Good series to keep an eye on. And then UCF at Texas Tech. Again, another good one. If you have any more of those picks, and let us know what you guys are watching this weekend, please comment on here. And if you're going back to rewatch this, please comment on the games that you'll be watching and let us know. Nicole, anything else on the lineup for this weekend that you're looking forward to?
I think the Wichita State at Charlotte, I think that's going to be a really good game, because those are both two really good mid majors. CC Wong, she was National Player of the Week. She's so solid. It's been really cool to watch her, and she's just so full of joy. And Wichita State, if they can just feed on that, they're going to be so infectious. But Charlotte, they're so good too. So this is a mid-major battle that's going on. These are teams that could easily upset anybody come postseason. So I would want to watch this game to become familiar with these teams, because they're going to make noise later on.
So that's it. The lineup, it's up on the website. Head on over to softballamerica.com. We're going to close with this. Nicole, if you have one head coach that you would hire if you were an Auburn AD or you're in the Auburn athletic department, who are you going after?
No prep at all. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I gave you prep at the beginning of the show. I said I was going to ask you this question. I gave you 35 minutes.
Okay. I would have to say I
Do you
don't
want
know if I
you
wanna
want some
go.
time? Okay, you want some
Yeah.
time? You want
Yeah,
some
give
time
me
to
some
think?
time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going after Kenny Gasky. I think,
Okay.
yeah, I think I don't know if Kenny Gasky's going to leave Stillwater, but that would be the first choice. I think when you talk about somebody that knows how to recruit, that's been able to go to Stillwater, not only bring in new talent, but get transfers out of the transfer portal. That's who I go after. That would be, I think, first decision for me. I know Brady thinks. I think Brady's on the Samantha Ricketts train. So Brady's going after Ricketts. Who you going after, Mendes?
Um, I don't I don't think it'll happen. But I think I would have loved to see Sierra Romero. I think somebody actually said pick two, the Romero sisters together. Um, I think Sierra Romero, I don't think she has an interest in coaching. But I think she would be just an incredible coach, and she gets the buy-in, and so whenever you're a new team, we talked about it with Texas A&M and Coach Ford over there, and her being able to get the buy-in from her team, and you see whenever you're a new team and you get that momentum right away, that's the spark plug, and I think Sierra would have done a great job. So I don't think they'll get her, but if I had my dream, I think she could be a really, really good coach.
Well, that was out of the box one. I wasn't expecting that one, but obviously Brandon
Yeah.
was on there too. Then we got Callan. He's got an interesting one. I think that's a good other option as well.
Yeah,
VJ
I
Moore, Virginia
whenever
Tech.
I was recruited in travel ball, he was over at Missouri, and I got to know him very well, and I think he's just a stand-up guy, stand-up coach. I like that. I like him a lot. I think he's a great coach, so I'm a fan.
All right. Well, that's it for Good Morning Softball America. We're ran over. I promised Nicole I'd get her out of here in 30 minutes, but there was just so much to talk about, and she's
Too
just
much
the
to talk
best.
about.
If you have any questions, send on over to us. Make sure you like and subscribe, especially go over and subscribe to the YouTube channel to support not only the softball Good Morning Softball America podcast, but all of our podcast network. We appreciate you. We wouldn't be able to do what we do if it wasn't for you, the fans, the listeners, the subscribers. So thank you so much for supporting us. I'm Tara Henry for Nicole Mendes. Mindy, any final thoughts?
Man, it's an upset year. I love the chaos. I just love it. I want more of it. I bring it on. If you're a team that's listening, you're like, hey, I want to up somebody. Let's do it. Let's upset somebody. I love
All right,
it.
you heard it. Let's upset somebody this weekend. Let's go. That's it for the Good Morning Softball America podcast. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you all next week.